I'm Rip Esselstyn, and you're listening to the PLANTSTRONG podcast. We are smack dab in the middle of summer travel season here in the good old US of A, and I hope that you're all enjoying yourselves, exploring all kinds of new places, and if you're on the road, you're keeping it PLANTSTRONG. Not long ago, my producer of the podcast, Carrie, and we released a short episode on how to stay PLANTSTRONG while traveling and eating out at restaurants. And oftentimes, a break from routine can pose challenges like vacations during summertime, but we like to think of these things more of an adventure than anything else. So today, we are back with another Broc and Roll. That's right, not rock and roll, Broc and Roll with Rip and Carrie. It's one of our minisodes that discuss another hot topic like how do you deal with all of the social pressures and the ridicule of being a whole food, plant-based person. I know it sounds crazy, like this lifestyle, one that's abundant in fruits and vegetables and whole grains and beans, and is all about being a better steward for the planet and being compassionate towards animals, is constantly under scrutiny, but it is. And so Carrie and I were here to help. So how do we deal with the social pressures and the constant jabbing that we get? Let's find out right now.
Hello, PLANTSTRONG family. This is producer Carrie Barrett, and Rip is on vacation this week. And speaking of vacation, we want to personally invite you to join us, the entire PLANTSTRONG team, this November for the PLANTSTRONG retreat in the breathtaking Blue Ridge Mountains of Black Mountain, North Carolina. Now, let me tell you, having been there a couple times, this is the experience that we all look forward to every year, the entire PLANTSTRONG team. It is 5+ days of transformation, surrounded by like-minded souls, expert speakers, delicious food made from whole plants, daily movement, and the kind of connection that truly does last a lifetime. You'll learn how to take your health into your own hands with the latest in lifestyle medicine and nutrition science, and you'll do it all while hiking, laughing, and living your best life in one of the most beautiful places on earth. Now, space is limited and it always sells out. So head to plantstrong.com and grab your spot for Black Mountain before it's gone. That is plantstrong.com. We'll see you there.
Hey everyone, I want to welcome you to another episode of the PLANTSTRONG podcast. However, this one is a little different. And Carrie, who is and has been my producer of the PLANTSTRONG podcast now going on 5 years, we've decided that we're going to tackle different themes, questions, topics that we feel are pertinent based upon kind of all the feedback that we're getting from both you and the world at large. And we're just going to dive into them. And these are going to be kind of mini episodes that are somewhere between 8 to 12 minutes in length. So they're very, very much very easily digestible by all of you.
And we'll be riffing back and forth a little bit. I think that with your almost 40 years of experience on a whole food plant-based diet and my now almost 17 years, we have a lot of advice to offer. I think we have a lot of anecdotes that have worked for us in certain difficult situations. And in working with so many of the thousands of people that you've worked with through the years, you have seen what can work. And what bubbles up for us a lot at PLANTSTRONG are the same barriers over and over and over that we all have and that we still deal with. Not a day goes by that somebody doesn't make fun of you, Rip, for being a whole food plant-based advocate. And after 40 years, you've learned to navigate that challenge quite easily.
Yeah, but you'd be surprised how many people, if they are doing it, they're not doing it to my face anymore.
Yeah, you're right. Well, now everyone's a keyboard jockey, right? And now there's trolls online, and
Yeah, right.
yeah. So,
But so let me turn it over to you. So what's going to be our first topic?
well, what I'm doing here is I'm looking at a survey that we did at PLANTSTRONG, where we wanted to get feedback from you on where do you see the struggles when it comes to either sustaining this lifestyle or beginning this lifestyle. And this was far and away the most mentioned objection or barrier. I call it an opportunity. And that is the social challenges and the lack of support that people have when they go to make a big change like this. So many struggle with being the only plant-based eater in their family. We hear that a lot, house divided. Many find it challenging to go to parties or restaurants, and it is just temptation for them to say, oh, this is too difficult. I can't do it. So, Rip, when you were first navigating this, and now when you're working with people over and over and over again, what are some of the tips that you give to people when it comes to these social pressures?
Well, I think the first thing is you really have to have a thick skin.
Yeah.
Right. And just don't take it personally. It's people, they just unfortunately they don't know any better. And for the most part, I would say the vast majority of Americans are nutritionally illiterate. And we all know that there's so much noise and confusion swirling around out there right now with all these different dietary tribes. And I mean, obviously I'm biased, but I think that the tribe that is rooted in the most science and truth is a whole food plant-based diet, for a multitude of reasons that we've talked about dozens and dozens of times on the PLANTSTRONG podcast. So first and foremost, just don't take it personally. Know that this person that is questioning you, that is in your face, this cousin, brother, sister, maybe even parent that is calling you to the carpet on what you're eating, they probably have the best of intentions, but they don't have the best of knowledge behind what you're doing. And so, I think one of the best things you can do is take the Doug Lisle approach, where you kind of let them know, hey, you know what, this may be silly, but I've kind of given myself, I've made a promise to myself that I am going to try this for 30 days and then see what happens. And that way, it kind of takes the heat off yourself. It's an experiment. You're not proclaiming that I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life.
Yep.
And I think that's a good thing. So anyway, so for starters.
Yeah, and I think that when somebody is coming at you hard, it says more about them and their insecurities than it does about you. And so by attacking you, by questioning you, by saying, oh, this TikTok handle says that so-and-so diet is better, or that you're going to be deficient, it really calls into question, I think, their self-esteem and their lack of confidence, I think, in themselves. And so truly, that's the one thing I have always tried to lean back on, is like when somebody's putting me down or making some harsh judgment or saying, oh, they tried this and it didn't work for them. To me, it's coming at a place like they're not attacking me. It really is. It's more about them. It says more about where they're at in their life. And, I don't ever try to throw science at anyone unless they very specifically ask. I am not out to convert the world to my way of living. I think in your experience, unless somebody comes that is very interested, it just doesn't work, to get preachy, so to speak.
And you can typically tell pretty quickly if they're genuinely curious and asking heartfelt questions, or if they're actually trying to somehow, create a hole in your submarine, and try and sink you.
Yeah.
You mentioned people saying, "Oh, well, yeah, I went vegan for 30 days, and oh my God, I couldn't believe what happened to this or that, or my energy levels sank, or anything like that." And my father tells people that inappropriate application of the method is no reason for its abandonment. And so it's amazing how many people think, and we have seen this time and time again, they think that they're doing the Plant Strong program correctly, and then we ask them, send us a journal, a food journal of everything you've eaten for the last 2 weeks so that we can review it and just see if we need to do any course corrections, and if you're actually doing it 110%. And what we find is we're lucky if they're doing it 50%.
Wow.
And so,
Wow.
so it's almost like a combination lock, right? Where you have to get, all of it together, and then that lock unopens, and you're going to see the magic of increased energy, weight loss, bringing down cholesterol levels, LDL, all the, blood sugar levels plummeting, all these things.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to lack of support or feeling like you don't have a community of people to lean on, first I would start with finding an online community, either in person or on Facebook or wherever. There are so many groups out there. Go Plant Strong has one. We have an online Facebook group that is free and open to anyone, where we celebrate progress over perfection.
Yeah.
I would start there, but there are myriad support groups
Tons.
that you can fall on.
We just interviewed Bev and Don.
Yes.
And
yes.
Can you remember what their group was?
Healthy World Vitality Program.
Out of Sedona, Arizona, but it's for people that are even outside of Sedona. That just happens to be where they started the that support group.
And for $40 a year, you can be a part of this vigorous support group with ongoing education and resources. So I would start there. If you don't feel like you have community among loved ones, you've got to seek it out. The other thing I would say is, when this lifestyle gets challenging, and I think at the beginning it will, obviously, I would every day write a list of whys, or even if it's just one why a day. One thing that I used to tell athletes when I would coach runners and triathletes was, when it got hard, and it did get hard, to every day put their why in a jar. So every day you're writing down to be a better mom or whatever, and put that why in a jar. And on those days when it gets really tough and you have no motivation and you are feeling low, pull one of those whys out of that jar and then write about it. Spend time with that why.
A reflection.
Do a reflection on that.
Yeah.
And it just puts you back in that headspace of this is important to me. This is bigger than any mockery I might get at the next family party.
Yeah, I like that. It's bigger than a hard day.
Yes.
Right? And you're going to overcome that. And then I find that the more times that you can parry, right? Deflect those hard moments, those hard conversations, those hard days, over time, the easier and easier it gets.
I wrote that same thing in my notes, Rip, and we did not share notes before this, but I just said you have to go to the well a lot, and it does get easier and easier and easier.
Give me an example of a time over your 17 years when you've had a hard day.
Well, one of the topics that we will cover, if not today in a later episode, is when I first went whole food plant-based. We were traveling. I think I was, maybe 6 months in, and so I was really, really trying to be perfect. And we were traveling to Germany for a fun vacation, and because I was so rigid, I sort of sucked the fun out of it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't totally proud of myself, but it was a time when it was important for me to be steadfast because I didn't want to get 6 months into this journey and then just say, oh, forget it. I'm going to let it all go to pot while I'm on this trip. What I've learned since then is to be flexible, is to okay, great. If I have to go to a restaurant and there is oil on my vegetables, like, okay, just you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Just get up tomorrow morning, eat your oatmeal, and you'll move on from it. So that is something too, when you are feeling challenged, is just to give yourself a little grace in this journey.
No, I think that's a whole topic that we should save for another episode of this. But speaking of which, our time is just about up.
Oh my gosh! Well,
I want to be. Well, I like to be cognizant of let's keep these kind of short and sparkly and informative.
I like it, but let me leave with one thing.
Okay.
And I have been given this advice a lot, which is stand up for yourself. And I had to learn that through therapy the hard way. But if someone you feel is attacking you or questioning you or belittling you, it is okay to say that is not okay. You cannot. Please don't treat me like that. And I had decades of being bullied because I was the youngest of 5 kids, the only girl. I was, an overweight girl growing up and just awkward. And I got made fun of a lot. And it wasn't until I was in my late 20s, Rip, that I started going to therapy and to unpack some of these issues. And my therapist then said, well, have you ever told anybody to just stop, that it's not okay? And I hadn't stood up for myself. So to round out how to handle these social challenges and lack of support, one of the things I will tell you is it's okay to stand up for yourself.
Yeah, I like that.
Thanks.
That's really a nice way to end this. Okay, Carrie, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And for our audience, I will summarize these points on our episode webpage so that you'll have a nice bullet pointed list of some of the things that we've talked about, and maybe even some more bonuses and links out to talks, like the talk from Doug Lyle. He's got a beautiful talk on how to go along without getting along, how to get along.
Get along without going along.
He has a beautiful talk called How to
Get Along Without Going Along.
Yes, and we'll put a link to that as well.
All right. Hey, Plant Strong.
You got it.
I would say 2 of the key words from today's episode are conviction and confidence. And as Carrie and I said, it is absolutely okay to stand up for yourself when the questions and the taunting begins. If you need a few resources for inspiration, we'll be sure to drop them in the show notes for you. I want you all to enjoy your summer. And remember, no matter where you are or who you're with, always keep it Plant Strong. See you next week. The Plant Strong podcast team includes Carrie Barrett, Lori Kordowich, and Amy Mackey. If you like what you hear, do us a favor and share the show with your friends and loved ones. You can always leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And while you're there, make sure to hit that follow button so that you never miss an episode. As always, this and every episode is dedicated to my parents, Dr. Caldwell B. Esselstyn Jr. and Ann Cryle Esselstyn. Thanks so much for listening.